No, I heard
Assieds-toi là pour un moment. Juste un petit moment. Toi, tu veux faire quoi? Tu vas filmer Sacha? Là, on est live, là, parce que comme ça, les gens ils ont le temps d'arriver. On commence dans une peu là, j'ai même pas le... Dans une demi-heure. Je vais me pousser dès que c'est prêt. Oui, tu vas voir. C'est installé? Pas prêt. Moi, je savais pas du tout que ça serait une soirée comme ça. Ah bon? Tu pensais que c'était quoi? Je pensais que c'était petite réunion de salon entre une dizaine d'amis. Ooh, I would love to have one of those. Can you do me a favor? Sorry? Can you do me a favor? Yes, I'm sorry. Can you ask this lady? Can you ask this lady? Can I have the same? One more.
Yeah, one more. The same. Take care.
Almond. How much coconut? Almond.
Maya knows some Canadian things. Thank you.
NewEarth, she's gonna do it in Donna. Donna's gonna do it on NewEarth cable. She's not on right now. Yeah, see? It's so late. It's like 5 minutes. Okay. So Watch out. So that's for you. We're going live now.
And where do I put my...
Just put it here. I need Sasha to go live on his Facebook. Make sure this doesn't get.
How does this work? This thing?
Okay. Show me. You want to go front like this, or portrait, or panoramic?
What's the best way to do?
You're doing a live. It's better to do it standing.
Is Ole speaking with Sacha?
Yes, Ollie will move up
Okay,
here.
like
yes.
this.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So I'll probably do it like this, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. So this is pretty secure, this thing. Oh, it's kind of top heavy. How do you
Spread the legs as much as you can.
spread those legs? So what I need to when it's ready to set. Not smaller. Where are all the dogs? Where's the sister?
And then Frankie.
Where's Frankie?
I haven't seen Frankie for a long time.
Don't say that. I can't go anywhere. I've got to do it live. Now I'm worried. I've got to find Frankie before I start.
Yes.
Let me check we're on the right sound. Friends, could I just ask you before we start, sorry to be a pain, it's a very un-21st century request, but please could I ask you to to put your airplane mode on your devices, because otherwise we absolutely won't be able to stream. There's very little chance we'll get out of this room. Yeah, we've got limited bandwidth, thank you. Look at the disconsolate faces there. Oh, give up the Instagram just for 2 hours. Of course, I'll be on Instagram. Which is the best one for this? We're on sync, so it's like this. Let's try it again. Ready?
Di atas.
Okay, friends, we've just gone live. Give it a couple of minutes and we're going to have a very large audience out there.
Do I just hit this one to go in there?
Salam alaikum. Alaikum salam. Friends, put your hands in the air and say hello to your international audience. Okay, the number's jumping up there. Onyx, you might need to relieve me of this. I'm not going to be holding this.
Ole, can you grab it?
Oh, who's holding this and doing the live stream from this? I'm happy for anyone else. Who else is good and steady? Thank you. Yes, thank you, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. First off, thank you for the temples behind me. It's just too perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's too perfect. Can you all hear me at the back? Sure? Okay, I'm looking at the good-looking man with the long hair. Yep, that's the one. If you can't hear me any given time, don't throw anything at me. Just put your hand up and stop me. Thank you. If this voice is annoying anyone behind me, and it's beginning to annoy me, we may shut these doors. How long is that likely to go on for? Anyway, it's actually seriously going to diminish my experience tonight. Just leave a little bit of a breeze coming in. Guys, thank you for coming. Welcome to Voices of NewEarth. This is our second season. We began the first season a couple of years ago. Oh, let me remember, that was before the gates of hell fell upon us as a species, as a civilization. Well, well, well. I want to introduce two friends of mine. They're not presenting tonight, but they're here as window dressing and for intellectual substance, and because they are superstars in their own right in the world of truth and disclosure and the elevation of art, beauty and consciousness. So please, a welcome please to Margot Anand and to Ole Damagard. Yes, thank you for joining me in my conspiracy this evening. We're doing what good humans are very much required to do at this time, which is to begin to engage what I loosely term the art of irreverence, and to really step away from the mindfuckery that's been going on, not just for 2 years of COVIDiocy, but actually it's been going on for 2,000 years and beyond. So I'll try and limit my my conversation today to less than 2,000 years, shall I? This might be difficult. I'm going to have to get rid of this thing. Sorry, Robin. How do I now get back up? You sure that'll do it? Okay, gotcha. Boom, 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 boom. All right, friends, I'm going to do for the next hour or so, I'm going to do pictures. I'm going to do images. Some of them moving, some of them static, and I'm going to do blah, blah. And I'm going to do my best to just weave a bit of a narrative around the totemism of the images you're going to see. At the end of the day, we're all about images. That's what we all are. We're all images being projected into the holonomic field of so-called reality. The question, of course, becomes whose reality? Ours or theirs? And the question then becomes, who is they? I'll start by saying that they, at any juncture in time, is the absence of self-awareness. That they is always the unresolved aspects of me in the now, in the perfect geometry of now. So that's more or less what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to refer you to the screen. I hope you guys can see this one here. Are you hearing some scrunching going on?
Yeah.
Is that my hair? I don't know what to do about it. Is this... Thanks, Rob. Can I take this off? This thing? These things, thanks so much. Boom, boom. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, let's go. I'm about to unveil NewEarth Horizon in the next few short weeks. And the NewEarth Horizon is a pretty intense web platform, as secure as I believe we can make it. I've been systemically deplatformed on all platforms. Really, that's been ongoing for the last year and a half. But the NewEarth Horizon, by the grace of God, will win the day. So please just make a note of that. NewEarthHorizon.com is going to be the platform. You can actually get on there now and subscribe. And that allows us to stay in touch with you when we flash open our kimono. And what a big dick it is beneath that kimono. Welcome to the cauldron of creation. And I'm inviting us to now begin the journey into remembrance. Remembrance of who we are, what we are, and why we are. Our cosmos reckoning, a great reckoning, that we are the galactic hybrid. We are the Alpha and the Omega as Homo sapiens sapien, or as I prefer to term us as Homo sapien luminous, because that's really how we're transitioning right now. We're beginning to engage the mechanics of ascension as a reality. The horrors that each of us have witnessed, especially in the last few short years, are a testament to the fact that we are moving into the transmutative and then the transcendent phase of a pretty diabolical status quo. And we're going to take a journey into that status quo. And that status quo speaks really about dissonance, incoherence, our inability to engage Atman, our inability apparently to reckon with self, to step inside our divine flame, so to speak, and become the Christed ones, become the sons and daughters of God, which is what we absolutely are, Alpha to Omega. Citizenship to sovereignty, in simple terms, describes that journey and the need for us each to recognize what is citizenship, what is the root etymology of citizen and citizenry and citizenship. Well, it goes back to the Caesars of Rome, of course, to the source code of civilization. I don't think so. Don't think there's a whole lot that's civilized about blood economy, about war, about disease, and about poverty. Sovereignty describes really where we're at right now, which is how every living, sentient being on planet Earth is meeting with their own reckoning. Mind, body, and soul. You all feel it. We're all here because of it today. Those of us who are able to navigate through the valley of death, that is upon us. I mean, there is no valley of death ahead of us. We're in it squarely. We're in the valley of death right now. And I'm not going to get religious on you because I'm not a religious man. But yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I shall fear no ill, no evil. Must become the mantra for each one of us. Sovereignty demands that we step into that flame. Sovereignty demands that we transmute and transcend fear and the source coding of fear. And there's no small surprise they're fucking with our mitochondria right now, because really it starts there. So the genetic manipulations and the eugenics operations that have been underway for the last century, essentially, it's been going on for thousands of years, actually millions of years if you understand the true timeline. But we'll, as I said, stick to the last 2,000 years. That is a very poignant image, and of course we all recognize what that is, the yellow star. And vaccine passes, of course, and QR codes are exactly the same thing. So the QR code that you've got, and we all have them more or less, is that star. Make no mistake about it. And we have all volunteered into that, okay? That's a fail, incidentally, humanity. That is a fucking fail. That is a fail, and we'll get into why. You would have thought, only 75 odd years ago, you would have thought that the ancestral song in our blood would have prevented this from happening again. But there are reasons why it became almost impossible for humanity to move beyond this, and that's what's happening today. Just a lot more slick, a lot more sophisticated. This is how we treat our fellows. This is what we do to our fellows when one stands above the other, when one lays claim to supremacy or dominion. And there's reasons why we fall victim to that. And then we move into this kind of fuckery, this kind of droid civilizational dystopia, where we all chant the same nonsense and we look to totems and images and flags to redeem us, to save us from the trial of separation, from our desperate loneliness in this valley of tears. And it begets this. Everywhere we look, it begets this. You don't get to see those images on your Netflix or on your television screens. You don't teach these things to our kids too readily, because this is the shit in the basement. We don't like talking about it. This is happening all around the world. There are over 85 countries at war today. You never hear about any of them. Oh, yes you do. You hear about the Ukraine. Well, there's a good reason why you hear about the Ukraine. Source coding the kingdom of the devil, an integral journey for each of us. This to me is probably the most horrendous photograph in terms of what it conjures in the mind, if you understand what it means. These razor blades represent the abomination, the travesty of the Catholic Church, of government, the parent corporation, consumerism, high street, and how we franchise evil and the source code of the devil into the hands of every black skin, brown skin, red skin, yellow skin, and white skin fool on the face of the earth. And our name, Yaldabaoth. It's not a bad name, but that's really behind this archonic complex and the lower astral and elemental orders and the demonic realms which slowly infuse the minds and the hearts, poison the minds and the hearts of sentient beings like us. Inversion of Kundalini 101 is how we clip off foreskins and clitorises. Again, off the radar. Don't talk about this too much. It's happening to millions and millions and millions of souls. Again, principally the black skin, brown skin souls, the most readily disposable members of the human family, the ones that are kept left of radar in the main. Classic civilizational dissonance. Civilizational. Civil. Civic. Fucking Romans. Oof. Oof. The face of the mother is what disgusts me. I find this the most abominable image. And I pity the poor mother, how her mind and heart have been completely co-opted and commandeered by the source code of the devil through religiosity, in this case, the subversion of Islam and the true message of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This is disgusting, and this is going on, and this must end. It must end. We are the ones who have to dream this out of being by knowing about it first, by reckoning with it. 21st century, let's just rape our kids, shall we? Let's rape our kids. Let's insert nanobot technology at the end of these World Health Organization sanctioned barcoded PCR tests. We all know about PCR. We all know they do fuck all. This is rape. This is how the enforced abnegation of sovereignty and abdication of sovereignty is taking place all around the world. Hundreds of millions, billions of souls. Okay? And we're all responsible for this. Every single one of us who shuffles along and rolls up the sleeve, acquiesces to this, is responsible for the collective dreaming. It won't go away, people. It gets a whole lot worse than this. This is light. L-I-T-E. We do it to our little boys as well. We take away their joy. We impede their bliss. We ensure that the kingdom of the devil steals into the penis of every little boy who has this atrocity perpetrated against them in the name of God, in the name of some religious foible or other. But this is classic civilizational dissonance, and it's for a reason. To remove the source code of joy, that woman is the great master in teaching the world about the ecstatic conspiracy. But this is the stuff we have to start to remember and place our attention on. Billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of human souls that have been subjected to this atrocity builds up a field effect. That doesn't go away. Every travesty, every abomination, every tear shed remains in the field until we phase conjugate it out of the field through wise dreaming. Know that to be so. Inversion of Kundalini 101, Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, and all of that. Choir boys, pedo priests, little girls with little titties. Oh yeah, baby. Flying the flag. This is normalcy. This is how normalcy was perverted. The miraculous Mercator Atlas, just an important piece for everyone to know, because what this evening is about is first to put a mirror up in front of each of us, so that there is a reckoning, and the reckoning here tells you that you know absolutely fuck all about your own planet. I mean, this thing here is a delightful object. I can just see this one in an Edwardian study or a library in the Royal Institute for International Affairs or the Royal Geographical Society. Yes, that's our planet there. No, it isn't. That is not our planet. Our planet doesn't look like that. It doesn't feel like that. This is classic dissonance. Look at the green. The green is the real. The blackout is the unreal, is the fiction. Okay? If you truly mapped the surface of the earth, you would see the green. Curious enough, Africa comes up, Trump's there. And we'll talk about why that is. The miraculous Mercator Atlas, again. Actual position on the equator, US, Australia. We're led to believe that Australia is, no, Australia is huge, epic. If you put Australia on Canada, it eclipses North America. Look at it. But we're led to believe it looks like that, the actual position. Again, You've got to understand how the dissonance is integrated into us, how the synapses fire up since we're 2-3 years of age, believing the false images, false light, false image, Lucifer, Lucis, Luciferianism. We are a cult of Luciferians. Each of us are cultists. And we pay homage to Lucis, to the false light. China on Russia. China's pretty big. Brazil on Russia. Brazil's pretty big. Canada on the equator, actual position. This is Africa. In Africa, you can fit China. North America, most of it. Forgive me, I can't see it. Almost blind. India, Eastern Europe, most of Western Europe, United Kingdom. All of that fits into Africa. Africa is vast. Africa is the belly of Tara. It's the stomach, it's the belly, it's the ground of this entire plane of existence. There's a reason why the churches marched on Africa and still do to this day. Today, of course, the Chinese Communist Party have taken over Africa. They began that buyout 20 years ago. I remember when I was doing diplomatic work in Egypt in 1999, long time ago, 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, when I was living in Egypt and I was meeting constantly with diplomats. That was my whole life, 5 years, diplomacy. Citizen diplomacy, but meeting with diplomats and leadership. And I remember most of the countries I was meeting with, leadership, they were all talking about how China at that time was handing out billion-dollar checks to Eritrea, Central African Republic. It was buying out Africa, very smart. They were on it back then. China. Who is China? CCP. CCP is the Vatican. CCP is the crown of England. CCP is the crowns of Europe. CCP is the US Treasury Department, Wall Street. Okay, it's all the same. So China is simply where the dissonance has moved there. Govern, control, meant mind. Government means mind control. You probably all know that in this room because you're pretty enlightened. But there are many people watching who don't know that. It's in the word. The spell binding is always in the words. Always in the words. And I invite everyone to weigh and measure every single word that you speak in this world. It is the most valuable commodity. More than that, measure and weigh every thought that you hold before it becomes word, before it becomes a spell, before we contribute to the great spell binding and become the dream spell, the bad dreaming, which manifests in the field as the kingdom of the devil. The church and the state, that's the dialectic. That's the civilizational dialectic. Church and state. Separation of powers. Bullshit to that. There was never separation of powers. Don't buy that crock of nonsense. The church and the state, sama sama, ini sama sama. The same thing. Always were. The church and the state. Get that as we move forward on this journey. There was never a separation. The government is the Vatican. Okay? The Catholic Church. Predicated on the murder of the Cathars. We'll get into that. The sacrifice of innocence is what church and state do as a function. The papal bulls of discovery and the doctrine of discovery. This is the key piece. And I do not do any lectures anywhere in the world without speaking to this, because this to me is the piece. You don't get this, you won't get COVID. You don't get this, you won't understand Ukraine. You don't get this, you won't understand anything about redemption or about salvation. Nothing. You have to understand the papal bulls of discovery and doctrine of discovery. It's all in the words. Bull, bull, bull. Go back to that, the etymology of the bull. Understand what that's about. In 1519, the 9 hell cycles began in 1519, ending 468 years later in 1987. Friends, that was the harmonic convergence. Hands up, please, who remembers the harmonic convergence? 12 of us. It was the single most important event in history. The history that matters to us. It was the true coming of age of humanity. 16th of August, I believe it was, 1987. And that was the day that it ended. The start of the 9 hell cycles was the day that Hernan Cortés landed in Mexico, April 22nd, 1519. So important you get this. That was almost 500 years of bloodlust, sacrifice of innocence, harvest of humanity. That led to everything that's happening today. Everything. We are still seeking redemption for the bloodlust, for the sacrifice, for the harvest of humanity that occurred under papal doctrine, under flag and banner of the Vatican and the crowns of Europe, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, the English, essentially, went forward and plundered the entire planet. Massacred. Don't believe the figures in the school books. The school books you read, all of you, were written in 1952. They were installed as a software in 1952, thanks to the Fabianist agenda, the Tavistockians, all of that. I wish I could do a 3-hour lecture just on Tavistock. Nothing else. And we'd tie it all in. Just on Fabianism, we'd tie it all in. But important you understand the gates of hell. This is how land was acquired in Zimbabwe, where I was born and grew up. This is a photo of British colonialists hanging Africans in 1890s in Bulawayo, the town where I was born. The photo was so prized by a British officer in Rhodesia, Robert Baden-Powell. Remember that name? The man who founded the Boy Scouts? It was so prized by him that he kept it in a scrapbook, entitling it The Christmas Tree. He was a fucking pervert. Baden-Powell, Boy Scouts, the pornographicizing of little boys. This is 1908. Belgium's reading the Bible before hanging a 7-year-old black child in the Congo under King Leopold II. Wow. King Leopold. Study up on that creature. That is a demon incarnate. The boy was hanged because his father failed to produce his quota of wheat to feed the white colonists. God bless him. Little pickaninny, little black child in a cage. That was in my lifetime. Most of us here in our lifetimes, friends. It's been going on. It's still going on. Trust me, it's still going on. Black Friday. It's a great big shopping extravaganza. No, it's not. It's a satanic spell. It's a satanic spell. Again, it is ritual Satanism in your calendar. Do not participate in any of it, ever. Ever. All the anniversaries that we celebrate are satanic rituals in the main, including birthdays. Be careful. Be very careful. Be very careful programming death into the DNA of your children and yourself, your loved ones. Celebrate every day as a birthday, as a Regenesis Day. Please consider what we're doing with all of these anniversaries. They are adulation. They are worshipping the false light of time, Cronus, the lords of time. Cronus, the titan that devours its own young. It's all in the word. Titan, Cronus, crowned, crowns of Europe, hegemony, crowning event, corona. It's all connected. Everything is connected. And it's all bad dreaming. It's all about the bad dreams. The weaponization of Christianity was the key piece, okay, in the modern context. And I say modern, for me, modern is 2,000 years, more or less, okay? Weaponization of the Christic message. Forget Jesus from Gethsemane, from Nazareth. Forget the man from Nazareth for a moment. What he represented. The same thing that Krishna represented. The same thing that Gautama, Lord Buddha, represented. The same thing that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, represented in his time, in his age. The Christed message, the cross, the great becoming, the emancipation, the singularity, the fusion point between the gods and the earthlings, where we step in to Atman, we become our supernature. The weaponization of Christianity is the essential piece in our cycle. The Council of Nicaea, 370, what is it? Joseph, help me. 325, thank you. 325 AD, Council of Nicaea. That was a gathering and a half. That was how the Romans managed to prop up their flailing empire. They were so clever. And fair enough. You know, fair dinkum, fair dues to them. The Roman civilization was teetering on the brink of catastrophic failure, and they had to reformat. In the same way that the Khazarian mafia are trying to reformat right now with COVID. At that time, 325, I think it went on for 2 or 3 years, the Council of Nicaea, if I remember correctly, to 328 AD. What they did was they sat in a circle and said, what are we going to do? We're failing as a civilization. We've got to reboot, reformat. How are we going to do it? They co-opted the message of the man they murdered, Jesus, because they saw that that was becoming popular. That was consensus. And they took that totemism, they took that iconoclasticism, and they turned it into Catholicism, ultimately. The murder of the Cathars, the true keepers of the flame, the living gospel, not the dead gospel, not the words on pages, that's a dead gospel. Okay? That led to Catholicism, which birthed Loyola, essentially, Ignatius Loyola. Again, I would do 3 hours on this son of a bitch if I could. I don't need to. I just invite everyone here and everyone watching, study the Jesuit oath. Study the Jesuit oath. Study the Jesuit oath. 3 times is a spell. I just cast the spell. Do yourselves a favor and your grandchildren a favor. Study the Jesuit oath. You will understand so much. You can Google it tonight when you go home. Jesuiticism birthed Illuminati, essentially. Illuminati birthed the CIA. CIA is the harvest of humanity, Central Intelligence. Okay? Yaldabaoth goes back to the all-seeing eye. It's all encoded. CIA is just my catch-all for metadata surveillance. Okay? Track and trace, baby. We got you under our thumb. We see everything, we know everything. Okay? They're in our mitochondria right now. Okay? Whether you took that or not, we're going to understand how that works. By their fruits ye shall know them. Jesus, that creature on the left, satanic image, incidentally, sorry to offend the pedestrian Christian mindset, but that is not Isa bin Maryam, that is not Yeshua, that is not the Master Jesus, the man from Nazareth. Do not ever make that mistake and fall into idolatry. The thing he despised the most, that is Cesar Borgia. Black nobility. That's a portrait taken of him. Okay? We were co-opted. Humanity was co-opted. The Gestalt was co-opted. The inversion of the Christed message, which has got very little to do with the man, everything to do with you and me. By their fruits ye shall know them. Boy, oh boy, didn't that turn out well?
Sacha, you forgot that during the
Darling, this is not the time.
Wait,
Please, no, bring it up. Please don't do that. Thank you, my love.
Okay.
You're too clever, but after, I have to do this presentation.
Okay.
That is an Anunnaki serpent skull. Okay? That's what it is. Study it. That is a Draco-Reptilian Imperial Draconian skull behind the throne of St. Peter, the papal throne. Okay? With pandemonium, Armageddon, apocalypse happening beneath it. Okay? And all of these little twisted cardinals with their little red booties. Pretty disgusting stuff if you understand the symbology. And these creatures are given birth to by that. Well, small wonder. It's all in the face, in the eyes. It's what you see with your eyes. It's what you feel with your gut. What do you see? What do you see? What do you see? Do you know what that creature was doing in the Argentinian juntas back in the 70s? I do. Do you know what that creature did and continues to do? Nothing to do with what we believe, what we're led to believe, what we choose to believe. And that's the point here. Okay. Incidentally, this is gratuitous. But that is more likely what Jesus looked like. Okay? That's being put together. It's the average man in the Levant at that time. That's more than likely what Jesus looked like. Okay? Probably very small, slightly stooped. Bad teeth. Okay? All right. All right. That's fine by me, incidentally. That's good. This for me is a good face for Jesus. It's fine. Happy with that. Paid actors. That's what church and state births. A mafia. Government is, by definition and distinction, a successful mafia. Successful mafia becomes the government of the day. Whatever day that happens to be. We need to know this. Again, I could do a lecture on all of these individuals. Emphasis, the one on the end. This insidious, gibbering, satanic, puerile individual, Senator Byrd. Anyone heard of him? One person in the room. That man is responsible for more evil than you will ever be able to imagine. Ever. He only died a few short years ago. But he's the mentor of the Clinton, Obama, Biden sock puppet crime cartel show. Okay? And all these deviants. And I just picked those ones at random. But again, what do you see with your eyes? What does your gut tell you? It's never wrong. You know that when we meet one another for the first time, doesn't matter where we are. The first time we meet another human being, in that instant, boom, in a flash of an instant, there is an exchange of fire in the eyes. And there's a packet of information. We know everything we will ever need to know about that individual in the first quantum instant. Trust yourselves, friends. Trust yourselves. We must reclaim that knowing. Those are paid actors. And they've done a good job. And in their way, they are Zen masters. And I salute them. Every one of them. Now fuck off. Inversion of the black sun. I mean, it's all in that. Black sun. Unpaid actors. Still actors, but unpaid ones. Okay? I mean, forget Bin Laden for a moment. That's a very, very interesting story. I went to meet with Bin Laden back in the day, in 1999. They never let me get through Pakistan to the Hindu Kush. I was turned around. Unfortunately, all my diplomatic dick waving didn't matter at that time. They wouldn't let me see him. I met with his brother, Sheikh Bin Laden, but not with this one. I wish I'd met him. I was meeting with a lot of mad mullahs at that time, for good reason. Because I did anticipate, based on some interesting epiphanies I'd had, that we were heading straight into the clash of civilizations, the Huntingdonian fantasy, that was being engineered. And I wanted to meet the mad mullahs before they became populist icons. But Gaddafi was certainly a bit of a hero. Now, it was in 2009 that I published a very big white paper on him, which got me savaged in the United Nations and elsewhere, because of course he became the bogeyman, in the same way that Saddam Hussein became a bogeyman. Now, these guys are not particularly nice characters. They were hard men. Putin's a hard man. I'm not going to be preening Vladimir Putin today. I happen to be an enormous fan of Putin, and I'm happy to explain to any of you why that is at a given point. Because I happen to know too much about the backstory there. I really do understand a great deal about it. But the Ukraine thing, and we're not going to talk about that tonight, but just fleetingly, we'll discuss the Ukraine thing. That is mindfuckery 3.0. And everyone is falling victim to it right now. It's an atrocity. It's an atrocity to fall victim to that particular dream spell right now. That is inviting us to go back again, another step back into massive civilizational dissonance, if you truly understood what was going on there. And when we do Q&A, we can talk a bit about that if you choose. State-sponsored genocide is the business model. That's what's going on today. whilst you've been distracted by the Russia-Ukraine theatrical production, the UK government quietly published data confirming the triple vaccinated people are just weeks away from acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Friends, that's called AIDS, AIDS, the same shit they threw at us in the 1980s, okay? Monkey in the jungle, all that nonsense, no, laboratory, okay? State-sponsored, crown-sponsored, laboratory.
Robin, the screen.
The latest official figures from the UK Health Security Agency, this is this week, which is why I think it's important. The latest official figures from the UK Health Security Agency show that triple vaccinated people aged 30 to 70 have now lost at least 70% of their immune system capability compared to the natural immune system of unvaxxed people. Their immune systems are deteriorating between 10 and 30% per week on average, with the deterioration much larger and quicker among young age groups. If this continues at the current rate, all triple vaxxed 18 to 39-year-olds will have 100% immune system degradation by the middle of April 2022. That's this year. That's next month. This is exponential. Exponential. It doubles up. It's a logarithm. Bad dreaming. Bad dreaming. And it continues. Fortunately, many countries are now withdrawing, and it's happening quickly. That is classic, incidentally. That's another serious sort of time capsule image. That's a time capsule image. That one day, by the grace of God, we'll look over our shoulders and look at that and understand what that means, this image. How that's entraining people into gun at the head. That's all this was about, people. Did anyone ever look at the actual number on the thermometer at the supermarket, at the airport? They don't give a fuck what's on there. They're too stupid anyway. Mandarins, technocrats, bureaucrats, cashiers, imbeciles, every last one of them. Eternal damnation and shame upon their souls until they do their own reckoning. Every single one of you motherfuckers, excuse my language, who played into that in the last 2 years and who continues to play into it. Eternal shame upon you. I speak to the camera, no one in this room. I don't want to get stoned to death, not this evening. Gates of hell, there he is. But who is he? Who is he? He's a scion, a proxy, a twat. I mean, it's the cuddly jumper, it's just up to the collar. I mean, it's so well calculated. He is a savvy son of a bitch, this one. He never invented anything. He's no software whiz. Don't you believe any of that nonsense. He's a proxy. He's a groomed icon. He was manufactured as an icon, just like that deviant old Bulgarian witch, Mother Teresa, was an engineered icon. I was telling the world 15 years ago about that, and I was almost stoned about her. Eugenics is the game. That is the game. That is the game. Okay? It's all about getting into our DNA. Why? Why becomes the question. And it's a beautiful question because it raises beautiful, beautiful, great new vistas in our imagination. And we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Thank you, Mr. Gates. Bye. Education. A very important thing. Oh, yes. I've had a good long life. I've made lots of money. Millions and millions of dollars. I'm going to put money towards education. That's what I'm going to do. We've got to educate us. Shut the fuck up. Oh, shut up, you Victorian monster. You Edwardian. Blah. No, we don't need educating. We never needed educating, okay? We need inspiring. There's a man, second row there, who spent his life amassing arguably the greatest archive of learning and knowing on earth. His name. Point is this. It should be a passion. That's all it should be. Forget education, okay? We don't want education. We really don't want it. We really don't want it. And I'll tell you who else doesn't want it. They don't want it. They do not want it. Nor do they need it. Nor do they need it. Not when this is how it's done. And this is how it's done. Again, satanic ritualism. The trial of separation being played out in theatrical production in every single classroom from Botswana to Alaska. Billions of little souls, beautiful little minds and hearts are being footbound, are being perversified, are being distorted because of this. Watch this, only a minute long.
The site
Watch
we're kind of looking for to begin with, this is Novavax. This is the third type. And when they say they're not injecting that genetic code into humans, they're correct. What are they injecting it into? Well, they're taking a different virus called baculovirus, which can't infect people. It infects insects and arthropods. So somebody came up with an idea to take a virus that can't infect people, put the DNA of the virus into it, inject it into the cells of these moths, this moth, in fact, where it gets into the DNA of the moth, and then the moth cells make the spike proteins. Those spike proteins come out, they attach it to nanoparticles, so now they're no longer pretending there's no longer any nanoparticles because there have to be. They take a tree that has a soap that irritates the blazes out of people to cause an immune response, put that together with it, and inject it into people. So, does Novavax inject the genetic code into you? No, it injects it into moth cells, so a moth can make partial proteins that get stuck together along with soap from a tree to inject inside of you. And at no point in time in my 53 years of research did I wake up from a nightmare thinking this would be a good idea, which tells me they've been doing this for some time with something else because they just didn't wake up one day to think about that.
Thanks to Alex for that. Ultimate dissonance, friends, is the abdication of health sovereignty, okay? I'll give it to you. That's what it is. When you abdicate your health sovereignty and you allow for satanic interventionism in the mRNA, the DNA, that is the ultimate incoherence and the ultimate dissonance. You don't get worse than that. And that's what we've arrived at, apparently. Watch this blessed woman. That's what happens when you allow poisons to be pumped into you. You're not seeing these cases. There's millions of them around the world. They're unsightly. They don't make it to social media very often. They're banned. They get taken down almost immediately. Okay? Millions of people suffering like that. So let's talk about the mechanics of ascension. Let's go there now. Let's go there. Oh, this is something coming out. That was actually, the slide's not supposed to be here. But this is something called Regenesis, and we've got it coming out. It's a formula coming out later this year. I think in June, July, by the grace of God, we'll have it. And I've been working for the last 7-8 months fastidiously with microbiologists. Those people who follow my work know how much work I've been doing there. I've done hundreds of media drops on it, and it's exciting stuff. I now know what I didn't know a year ago before I set off on the Arise tour in the United States. I now know that we can reconvene broken mitochondria, that we can undo that damage. But there are mechanics involved in that. This is a 28-day lapse, just so you know. One of the microbial formulas that we're working with a brilliant woman, a biochemist called Maria Chrysler, who's an incredible being. And I'm very, very blessed to be working closely with her, as I am with Dr. Christina Rahm and Clayton Thomas from Root Brands, if anyone knows about that. And there are other doctors I'm not allowed to name at this time. And what they're doing is next level, like Palladium level. And that's going to be for later this year, maybe early next year. I'll be able to speak about that. But these are the steps we're taking right now. That is 28 days lapse with one of the formulas. You're about to have your leg taken off, and you can reverse it. Now, medical science cannot reverse this stuff in the main, not unless it's loads of antibiotics, which are going to kill you ultimately. But this is a 45-day lapse, and I only show this image because nail fungus is impossible to get rid of. Once you've got it like that, it's not going to stop. You're just marching to the grave. And, to turn that around absolutely is a phenomenon. And I'm just delighted that we're seeing that. This is 24-hour lapse, again, with one of the formulas. And this is on advanced psoriasis. And this is just 24 hours. So we can regrow everything. We can reboot every cell in the body. Every cell of the body can be rebooted instantaneously and can move into a reverse cycle, reverse entropy. That's what we're talking about. Because the mechanics of ascension is essentially reverse entropy. Once we turn the kingdom of the devil around at the mitochondrial level, at the cellular and molecular level, and that's what we're being invited to do. It is a fusion of technology and consciousness. So be clear about that. That's alpha omega. You can't just do it with the technology, and you can't just do it with the consciousness at this time. It's got to be a fusion, and there's a reason for that. This is interesting stuff. This is what's showing up right now. This is with the root stuff, which I've been studying, and we're very excited about what we're learning is happening to human blood once people are taking this.
Okay, so this is at 200 times magnification. I just wanted to show you. So I put the clean slate on the slide probably about 3 hours ago, and I left it. And I've come back and I can see that all these lines seem to have formed, which I don't really understand. And
So basically what's happening is we're becoming crystalline. Okay, we're changing. The entire gamut of what we are biologically is undergoing a alchemization process right now. We're seeing diamonds emerge inside human beings, okay? At the submicron level. This is also an image taken a few weeks ago of what's happening to human blood once certain formulas are taken by conscious people. And begin to turn that wheel around, turn it around. Same. These are also a few weeks old, and it's very, very exciting what we're observing. We're seeing a transmutative, transmogrification effect happening at the cellular level. It's very, very exciting. This is technologies that I'm working on. I'll be in a few days' time heading back to Romania, where I'm working with military scientists there, and we're very involved in developing this stuff. These are our designs of what we're calling life pod technologies. This is very advanced frequency-based stuff, which can regrow arms and legs, eyeballs, teeth, everything. No surgeries involved. So we're working on these this year to try and get them to market by the end of this year. By the grace of God, we'll be able to do it. I've been privy to these scientists. I've spent time with them. I've been always been flanked by a 5-star military general when I've been taken to witness the technologies in the basement. They're real, they work, and they've got so many of them. It's extraordinary. And this is the Romanians. And there's something about Romania everyone needs to know in the world. Romania predates Rome. And the Romanian language predates Latin. Not many people know that. Romania is the seat, the absolute epicenter of all the noble lines in Europe that we understand. So there is a regenesis happening in that part of the world, which we're not looking at whilst we're looking at balls that are thrown in that direction, like the Ukraine, which is the Khazarian mafiosi playground. Okay, keep your eyes out for Romania, people. Magic is happening there. This is these two technologies. The one over there is one that stimulates the mitochondria in such a way that you start, all the genes that are turned off start to turn on again. That's reverse entropy. We know how to turn genes on that are turned off. Genes that turn off do not turn on again. That's what death is. Death is systemic genes turning off as you get old and die, okay? We can now literally reverse that with frequencies, vibration, okay? It's here, it's with us. No further R&D required. And this unit here is for dissolving the coagulation in blood. So you put your feet into that for 50 minutes a day and it completely dissolves all the microclotting happening, which is what's causing death all around the world. Essentially, it's microclotting, okay? Especially as it relates to the injury coming off the you-know-what, and spike proteins, all the rest of it. So that's exciting news. It's technology that's with us, and there are other technologies I'm not permitted to speak about at this time, but greatly looking forward to doing so, possibly when I get back to the Island Dream spell. If the media is fake, Imagine how bad history is. Seriously, consider it. Seriously. Let's have a look. Oh, good heavens above, a femur bone. Pesky little femur bone. I wonder where that came from. This is happening all around the world. This has been going on for hundreds of years. Okay, the Smithsonian Institute, the Royal Geographical Society, and the Vatican Library, in my view, are responsible more than any other for sequestering the true history and true archaeology. Okay? But there is a lot of this going on. Giants, lots and lots of giants not that long ago roaming the surface of the earth. They were very, very, very tall, and then more recently they were not so tall, but they were still very tall, like this chap over here. Perfectly formed individual. Many of them were around. There are thousands and thousands of photographs that are now surfacing of giants in all cultures. With the internet, the proliferation of this kind of stuff coming out of dusty basements is an absolute godsend. Animals as well. Just that one tooth alone is all you need as proof positive, forensic evidence of the complete deception of informed wisdom, what we're taught in schools, what we teach our children in schools. Giants were everywhere, as recently as 100, 120 years ago. If you'd stopped someone in the streets 100 years ago and asked them, and if they were 75 years old, and asked them what they remember from when they were children, they would speak readily about how many giants there were. It's a phenomenon. We have this bizarre ability as a civilization, as a species, to constantly allow ourselves to be reformatted by the informed wisdom, the dream spell, the software, the program that's put in. Like I said, 1952 was the last time, 7 years after the Second World War, was the last time that universal education had a reboot. And the whole Holocaust thing was kind of reinvented. And the 6 million Jews thing was reinvented. Okay? And the reason I'm bringing that up is because 6 million Jews, God bless every single one of them, are lined up for genocide today. Today. By virtue of you know what. Okay? That's spellbinding, playing out 75 years after the fact. That's ritual Satanism. And I could go into that at great length, but I'm afraid for this talk I have to just skirt over things. And I apologize. More giants. Believe me, I've got the most incredible files on giants. Just incredible. I've also got filmed, a moving film, but I don't have the permissions. I need to get the permissions to be able to show those public. Wow. Well, that's something connected to the great exhibitions that we're told were just built in a few weeks or a few months and then pulled down again afterwards. I don't think so, no. The great exhibitions that happened all around the world were a takedown of history, okay? It was a reformatting of history. It was the collapsing of ancient Tatars, the Golden Age, okay? These things were not just built out of cardboard for the great exhibitions that happened all around the world. The great exhibitions were a cover story because at the end of the great exhibitions, they destroyed all of these incredible aspects of our civilization. And we now have the evidences, so much of it. We're told that these were just built and then taken down after the exhibitions. Come now, people. Come now. Seriously. Of course, when it happened 50 years ago, 75 years ago, 95 years ago, 110 years ago, there was no one to argue. People weren't organized. There was no internet. There was no telephones. People could only meet 3 people in the village and talk about the lies and the treachery and the deceptions, then they'd die. You know, before they could get together, before consensus and remembrance could emerge in the field. So there's a reason why we have such short memories about true history and the golden ages. These doors were built for giants, not for humans, okay? They weren't built to impress ourselves. Trust me, they were functional. These were utilitarian. And they are all over the world. They are all over the world. Tens of thousands of them survive to this day, all around the world. Many of them have been repurposed now and had the doors taken out, and they're now entrances for railway stations and municipal buildings. And that's what we're led to believe. Many of these buildings are thousands of years old, in fact, many hundreds of years old. Great image of giants there.
when giants were prevalent. These books are not jokes. These are not doctored photographs. These are archives. And again, they're all around the world. I've spoken to one of the most powerful men in the world, who I speak to, mentors me, and I speak to him about once every 3 or 4 weeks, normally for an hour or two. And that's been going on for a few years now. And he's a man from the Islamic world, one of the most powerful individuals on earth, way more powerful than any of the kings or sheikhs in the Middle East. And I can tell you, he's been informing me about the correction of history that needs to happen between now and 2030. 2030 being the UN's agenda, okay? The deadline for the Great Reset. We need to correct history before that time. We need to remember in the collective gestalt, remember a lot more than we do today. These steps were not a folly. These were steps that were built thousands of years ago, utilitarian. They were used. They're all around the world, not just this one image. This is the station in Pennsylvania, so we're told. Built in 1910, so we're told. Destroyed 54 years later. Really? The main reason for the destruction cited was difficulty with the upkeep and cleaning. Really? I don't think so. No. It was taken down. But look at that image on the left. Okay. That's Pennsylvania. America is a lot older than you think it is. Don't buy into the informed narrative. Rethink everything you think you know in the school books about the Constitution, about 1776, about King George and all of that stuff. Rethink everything. Have the grace that that blessed soul amongst souls had, Socrates, who reminded us that the only thing we know is that we know nothing at all. The only thing we truly know. That is, by best accounts, a tree. Again, there are tens of thousands of these, which are now visible from space and from drones. Thanks to drones, in the last few years, everyone's got a drone. We're seeing things from aerial that we could never see before as a civilization. It's a fantastic thing. Many things are now visible from drones. That's a tree, and so is that mountain here, fallen over. This planet is very different to what you think it is. Just some of the oopas, or the out-of-place artifacts. These are annoying little things that really fuck up the Royal Geographical Society and the Smithsonian and the official narrative, you know. Oh, good God, man, how did they do that? Well, they couldn't do it today, so it's a good question. And then how did they move the other ones? 75 miles downstream. Still don't know how they did that. Well, we all know in this room, more or less, that was ancient technologies resurfacing to do with sound harmonics. And these ball and socket things are very pesky, also appearing all around the world, made out of solid granite. And the star holes, another phenomenon. Old world, new world. Classic photograph. Thank God that survives. Top, old world. Bottom, new world. You see, they took down everything of beauty, everything redolent and reminiscent of our divinity, of our incredible golden age, and left only the piece of shit block building. Why would they do that? He wondered aloud in his own living room on a fine balmy evening in Bali with a group of friends. Why would they do that indeed? Very good reason for doing that. Look at this. Extraordinary. Extraordinary. Not many of these survive today. These are old images. Amazing photograph. Paris 1900, top left. Paris 2070. Look what happened. Don't believe it was the bombs in the Second World War. This was takedown, okay? Systemic takedown. Deconstruction of our golden age in order to nullify so much of the collective memory. Okay? Look at this. Horse and cart. This predates any date we're led to believe about this building. The fall of ancient Tataria. Rather a large territory. Vladimir Putin is holding together the last vestiges of the Tatari Empire. The Romanovs were murdered. The fall of Great Tatari coincided at the end of days with the takedown, Wall Street sponsored takedown of the Romanov dynasty. Sacrifice of noble bloodlines, good Templar and kingly orders were infiltrated all around the world, subsequent to the great satanic intervention that happened after the harvest of humanity with the papal doctrines of discovery. Okay? Created tremendous witchery in the world. And in the fog of that witchery, these terrible, terrible things occurred. And the takedown of our true heritage, our true remembrance. Vladimir Putin has been trying to restore that aspect of our remembrance. Okay, again, I'm not going to go into it tonight because I would have to have a couple of hours. And it's very incendiary subject, which it should be. Just don't believe anything that you're hearing on the screens of life. It is all perverse propaganda. Perverse propaganda. The communists are not inside Russia. The communists are outside of Russia. We are the communists. It is our tax dollars that we continue to pay. That is the Nazi. We are the Nazi. We are the collectivists. We are the ones who are allowing for this to manifest. There are a few strongholds that are not Nazis and not communists, but they are painted as dictators, like Gaddafi in Libya and so on and so forth. That's the room in which the Romanovs, so we're told, were shot to death. Rather a beautiful family, I must say. What do your eyes see? See what you see. Feel what you feel. Have faith in that. Don't believe in Lucifer, in the false images being sold to us. Stop that nonsense. Stop it today. Change the soul covenant today. Greatest gift you can give yourself. Mud floods, history reformatted, all around the world. Every single major town and city. Okay? Mud floods. They were flooded. There are thousands of images of many of the cities on earth completely desolate. The buildings all intact. No people, no animals. There were great periods of time when there was no one there before they were reformatted, reseeded with humans. Again, that's a lecture unto itself, and I'm going to be doing that later this year in theaters in the United States. I'm going to be doing very long, 6-hour-long lectures incorporating much of this stuff with very serious images. That's a great surviving photograph of a mud flooding of a city. Okay? Reformatting of our civilization has gone on for thousands of years. There again, these buildings, some of them go incredibly deep. They used to be multiple stories high above ground before the mud floods, which were orchestrated events. These were coordinated, orchestrated events. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. The evidence is forensic. That's Moscow. Moscow. What begs the question is why are these lamps so high? What kind of lumens do you need in a bulb that high to be able to actually shed light on the ground at night? Think about that one. Okay? Think about that. Star forts, again, courtesy of the household drone. The fact that we have drones now. I was just at one in Mexico, just downwind from where we're building the NewEarth sanctuary there. There's a star fort. You would never know by looking at it on this elevation. But the minute you're above it, my God, what is it? It's a capacitor. It's a battery. It's an energy device. It's a radiant energy harvesting technology. We were powering up this planet on different forms of electrification. Okay? Hundreds of years ago and thousands of years ago. In the Ukraine, they found recently 27 star forts, but they're only just identifiable now because they're so old. And you can only see the imprints from space. But these star forts are all around the world. All around the world. And they're exquisite. Alpha Omega phase conjugation. This is speaking to cymatics, speaking to energy, speaking to the rose windows of cathedrals, you know, and what cathedrals really were and are. The bells. What happened to the bells? Used to be billions of bells, some of them bigger than my house, quite seriously, bigger than this house. I've got the photographs. I could do a 3-hour lecture just on the bells and the cathedral windows to explain what cathedrals were. Churches and cathedrals that have been co-opted by a false light Luciferic Christian faith. Some of them predate anything you think you know. If you really understood Nostradamus Cathedral, Notre Dame, forgive Nostradamus, Notre Dame, if you understood it truly, incredible Babylonian logic going on there. But this is connected also to the star fork phenomenon. So that's an interesting image. Planet Earth as a galactic capacitor. Okay? That's what is going on. We have been harvested as a species, as civilizational wheels. We are systemically harvested. Cycles of civilizations, mind program, mind fuckery, giving away our life force, abnegating our true prana, our true kundalini, our life force, our joy, our ecstasy, our orgasm, giving it away, giving it to the field, allowing ourselves to be the utility of ... The utility of what and of whom becomes the question. Cities and ancient edifices are all forensically evidenced as being batteries, capacitors, harvesting stations, for good or for ill. It's not all about ill. It's for good or for ill. We can power up this entire earth plane with one single human heart. Could power up every single light bulb, every generator. Fact. Your civilization is a battery. There is nothing civilized about civilization. Okay? Forget everything you think you know. Again, all of these things now taken down mostly all around the world. Millions upon millions. I have thousands of images that survive. But the actual places have been taken down. Of these dielectric antennas all around the world. In Africa as well. Okay? South America as well. Barcelona is a very powerful battery capacitor, designed as such. Inside every single unit there, you've got 300 human beings, each of them divine capacitors, limitless amounts of creative chi, prana coming out of every human, every time they masturbate, every time they make love, every time they get into a fight with their spouse, every time they kneel and worship at the crucifix. Psycho-emotional, psychosexual, psycho-intellectual, blah, 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 putting out, giving away your life force, jacking off, giving it away, abdicating is what we do. We're the harvest. We can choose to reverse that. Our civilizations have been batteries. There's nothing civilized about civilization. Don't you believe any of it. And this is all around the world. One of my favorite oopas. Again, what is an oopa? An out-of-place artifact that really fucks with the status quo. Classic one here. Like, really? And how did they do that? Well, we can't do that today. Dielectric antennas, again, that survive in some of these photographs. Transmission lines. See the top left image? It's actually more interesting. The top left image. Massive transmission antenna, but no wires connecting them. That's because there were radiant energy being transmitted. Cold electricity, the way we should be powering up now. That was what Nikola Tesla was really the last of the supernatural ancient Tatarians, passing the candle in the dark. That's who he was, Nikola Tesla. And J.P. Morgan fucked him. Surprise, surprise. Dielectric antennas everywhere. Look at the height again of those street lights. Look at them. The lumen in those bulbs must have been magnificent to illuminate the streets from that height. That's forensic evidence. We have thousands of them. Ancient Egyptian batteries there. Same. Oh, good heavens above. That's an irksome little photograph to emerge. A woman in Victorian England or Paris on a little thingy that you would think we'd just about be using nowadays. That was over 100 years ago, in the 1800s, okay? On the right, the first successful electric car made its debut in the US in 1890. Friends, that's 130 years ago. 130 years ago. And by 1900, electric cars had become so popular, there was a fleet of electric cars and taxis in New York City. Can you believe that? 120 years ago, there were fleets of taxis in New York City powered up on electrical vehicles. These electric vehicles were not only a status symbol, also accounted for a third of all vehicles on the road. What happened? What happened? We must care about this question. We must really care about what happened. Absolute subversion of our story is what happened. Infiltration and subversion of our stories are always happening. Ukraine is doing it right now. The hoo-ha story. Be careful. Be careful. Did you know, in 1949, almost 70 years ago, a Japanese car company called Tama developed an electric truck which could travel 200 kilometers on a single charge. Okay? Elon Musk, the Tesla electric vehicle inventor. Really? Don't think so. I mean, God love Elon Musk. I enjoy listening to him. There's something very interesting going on there. And the jury is out. I've got mutual friends of his that keep telling me he's a good guy. And he probably is. But he's certainly the utility of the devil. There's no doubt about that. Neuralink? Really? Starlink satellites? Really? Tesla? Faraday cages of pure EMF death? Really? AI transhumanism? Not good. Not good. I don't know if any of you have seen any of the shows that we did with Elena Bensonoff and Alejandro Ferradas. Can you just ask for hands up in the room who's familiar with the work we're doing there? Okay, small group. It's beautiful stuff. Doing scalar frequency readings, soul frequency readings of things, individuals, situations, organizations, events, and being able to triangulate through the field what that thing represents at the soul level. And curiously enough, when the scalar readings are done of the different earth models, and again, I refer you to my favorite joke, which is this one, bless it. Sweet thing. It's lovely and round. It's very lovely and round. Smooth. Wow. Planet Earth, Tara, rates at 700. That's enlightened. That's really good news. Planet Earth sits squarely on the cross of the Christic of enlightenment. That doesn't change. In Agatha also comes up as 700 on the scalar frequency reading. Fantastic truth in that, because yes, all spheres are hollow. Okay, couldn't possibly exist as a rock of molten lava. Again, absolute bloody nonsense what we're taught, from stellar parallax to orbital mechanics to what lies within. Lies, confounded lies, a tapestry of lies. Firmament model comes up at 250 degrees. This is on a scale of 1 to 1,000. The round Earth comes toroidal Earth 700. Forgive me, toroidal Earth, which is kind of donut shaped, 700. Okay? Round Earth comes up at 100. What we can deduce is that the Earth is not round. I'm not a flat earther. I'll say it again. I'm not a flat earther at all. Never was. But the Earth is not round. That matters to me. It matters to this heart. It matters to this mind. It matters to this gut. The flat Earth comes out at 200 on a scale of 1 to 1,000. The Earth is not flat either. Okay? Not. Hollow Earth comes out at 500, which is the frequency of love. Okay? So we can deduce that 500 toroidal, hollow, inner Earth and planet Earth Tara together creates a triangulation of what we're approaching. We're living inside a holonomic field of reality, which changes with consensus, which changes with our capacity to group ideate things. So if I can cast a spell on this room and let you believe that black is white and white is black, or that Zelensky's a good guy and that Putin's a bad guy, then I've succeeded. See? Then we think that's the case. That eventuates and ideates into manifestation somehow and generally becomes the status quo. Very dangerous stuff. Anyway, it's interesting to pay attention to the soul frequency. We're beginning to be able to see in that a lot of work's gone into this. The basic frequency, let's just look at those. Birds, 500, love, dead center. Cats, 400. Cats, connected to Orion and Sirian. They are amazing creatures. They see in the dark and they've got amazing intuition and they're fabulous company, but that's because we're also pretty deviant in our nature. But we like cats in the main. 400 is not bad. They're like intellect. They're in the mind. Like what serves a cat? A cat's going to have what serves it. Cetaceans, dogs, 5. I don't need to tell you that. My little there. Where's the third one incidentally? Okay, that makes me burn.
No, she's here.
Is she there? Okay.
We found her.
Cetaceans, that's dolphins and whales and things. 700. Enlightened. Boom! Those creatures are anchoring that entire galactic frequency to this Earth plane. We should be very, very grateful to them. Insects, 200. Horses, 540. Horses, 540. That's above love. That's special. Insects, 100. No surprise. Frequency revelations. These are intuition, joy, in the now, compassion, empathy. and divine purpose, DP. And most of them live up to that. Can you see that? 100, 196, 100, 100, 100, 100. That's remarkable. In the now, almost all animals, except for horses, are in the now 100%. Horses only 98% of the time. Really interesting stuff when you start to understand the soul frequency readings done through these scalar double-blind placebo trials. It's fascinating stuff. Again, these are tools we should be spending our time playing with, not watching television screens, not listening to the fuckery going on out there. There's so much we could be doing. The CIA and COVID-19 frequencies. The vibrational frequency of the CIA is 50 on a scale of 1 to 1,000. Okay, that's the scale. That's the same soul frequency as Hillary Clinton. Just so you know, Anthony Fauci is less. I believe he's 30. COVID-19 is 55. Okay, fantastic. Integrity 9%. CIA. Divine purpose 16%. Philanthropy 30%. It was birthed at 450%. Midpoint between intellect and love. So what was behind the CIA, Central Intelligence, was actually a bunch of good guys. This is where it gets very interesting. Very interesting indeed. It's not black and white. And only the fool sees it black and white. Only the fool. Vatican City, 50. City of London, 100. Washington, D.C., 55. I just think those are interesting for us to understand. Again, on a scale of 1 to 1,000. So that means Vatican City and the entire Catholic miasm is 5%. Okay? Check this out.
So the video you see on the screen right now, it's from the 1950s. People speak about anti-gravity. It's not anti-gravity, it's electromagnetic levitation. And it's the type of technology that they had in the Second World War, and of course, way before in the 19th and 18th and 17th centuries. It's what we understand as, wrongly understand as Tartaria or Tartary. It's not that, it's beyond that, it's more than that. But for the sake of understanding, the reset of humanity and what happened to the previous civilization that built the Americas and Europe and what we call today Russia and Siberia. So yeah, this is kind of like everything is electromagnetism, everything is like extracting the energy from the ether, which was forbidden at the beginning of the 20th century. It was forbidden specifically by law to be able to use free energy and to extract the energy from the ether.
There's a lot of this stuff happening around the world, and a lot of footage is coming. Weird kinetic activities happening, and they'll be on the increase in the next 5 to 7 years on a level you cannot believe. But a lot of this stuff is going to start to become somewhat normal and mainstream. And there's a purely scientific reason for it. Poltergeists can't move heavy objects in the main. This is quite extraordinary. CCTV footage all around the world is really part of the great revelation. This is a shape-shifting individual happening inside an elevator. And there's a lot of this happening all around the world, has done historically, but now we can actually capture it. Baby is able to move objects with will. That's happening all around the world as well, exponentially. So let's just recap. Trial of separation describes what we would loosely call the great fall or the fall of man. Okay? And that idea in the bad dreaming led to 3 essential totems that I have designated, which is time and money and fear, which are actually the same quanta. There is no separation between time and money and fear. Money is an extension of time and of fear. Fear houses time and money and issues off the idea of time. Time, especially 1260 time, describes scarcity, running out of time, running out of life force, running out of water, running out of electricity, running out of money, running out of love, running out of everything. The idea of entropy, the idea of scarcity begets itself. Know this, the universe does but one thing, can only do but one thing, and that is to lean in to each of us, unblinking, and ask us, how do you want to play? How do you want to play? The universe is feedback. It's all it is. It's feedback. Usury and exploitation are what issue out of time, money, and fear. The quest for domination, war, disease, poverty, issues off that. Religion naturally and necessarily emerges in the field, and that leads to government, mind control, and government leads to the harvest of humanity. And that's the cycle. Okay, we've come to the end of that cycle now. With the great genetic interventionism that's happened today, we've come full cycle. Thankfully. So the soul covenant, the geometry of now, is the singularity, is where we must reclaim, restore, revivify, rebirth self from the little s to the capitalized one. And this is not Luciferian language. To say, my will be done. It feels pretty good. My will be done. Not thy will be done. Thy will be done is ritual Satanism, is Luciferianism. My will be done, you can only say it unblinking when my will is in perfect conjugation and alignment with thy will. When I lay claim to being a son or a daughter of God, which is what I am, the I am, Atman, I am a son of God. I am a daughter of God. We are one and the same. I am an emissary of God in that sense. Now I lay claim to this world. Now I go forth, ideate and manifest. Embodiment, enactment, and manifestation. It's why we came here. It's what we covenanted to do and to be. Do not forget that. That's the regenesis. That's what's upon us. How do we do it? Stop obeying. Do nothing that offends the soul. Ever. Stop acquiescing. Stop saying yes. Stop pleasing the status quo through your fearfulness. Stop paying coin to Caesar. Paying tax is sacrifice of innocence. It's how you blow fucking babies' heads off in the Yemen. We've done it for 100 years. Can we please stop? In honor, please stop paying taxes, personal taxes. Pay your business taxes. Yes. Pay merchant taxes. That is correct and proper. That's a treaty that exists. That's a business contract that exists. But personal income tax has nothing to do with Caesar. Nothing to do with government or mind control. It's down to you and your absence of self-awareness. That's all it is. Your absence of self-love. Stop filling out forms. People, your signature is valuable. It is commoditized, monetized, securitized every time you sign a piece of paper. Be very sparing about what you sign. Stop giving your mark. Don't do it. If you understood how that allows for papers through the bureaucracy to be discharged against your birth bond in your country, in the central bank, you would stop it in a heartbeat, because you would know that you were perpetrating ritual Satanism, sacrifice of innocence. That's the mechanics of real reality. Stop doing it. Withdraw the covenant. Stop being securitized and monetized. Stop delegating your authority to false light. Stop abnegating duty of care to self and to God. Stop offering up your babes to Baal. Stop violating conscience. Stop being so damn polite. That's the new covenant. This is a place in Burma where a man who was over 119 years old, I'm so sorry, 1,019 years of age this year. This is him. You're very blessed to be seeing these images. You've never seen them before, you won't see them again. He comes out once every 2 years and performs a darshan. He stands in the mercurial fire and burns until the flame is gone. Then he steps out of it. Then he offers the blessing to a few who have come to receive. And then he recedes for 2 years. He's one of the ancients. Many of them are going to start surfacing. Many of them are going to start surfacing again. Let's just reprieve ourselves from all the bad images this evening, because I've shown you lots of bad images. And I don't apologize for it. But let's look at some joyful images. I mean, seriously, that is a meditation right there. That should be in stained glass in every cathedral. My favorite creature in the universe, the tardigrade. I urge everyone to learn about the tardigrade. These are the only things that can survive in space. And they are magnificent. And when I grow up, I want to be a tardigrade. That's the new covenant. It's an incredibly big world and an incredibly abundant one, incredibly bountiful and beautiful. We're not running out of anything, friends. We're not running out of anything. We're not lacking water, we're not lacking air, we're not lacking oil and gas. Don't need them, but we're not lacking them. We're not lacking anything other than self-awareness and self-love and our divine capacities. That's it. There is a world waiting to be explored, to be enjoyed, to be adventured. We need to get governments the fuck out of the way. Get the Catholic Church out of the way. Get all intercessionaries, interventionists out of the way. Get out of my way. Get thee behind me, Satan. We need to do that now, collectively. That is the new covenant. Get out of my way. I wish to adventure. I wish to odyssey. I wish to learn. I wish to serve, to enjoy. I want to understand what euphoria means. I want to understand. I want to serve bliss. I want to pay attention to good images, good totems. There's so much out there when we step away from the screens, especially these little ones. These are the most dangerous ever conceived. He's not going to stop anytime soon, trust me. This goes on to the early hours. Look at that. Piece of heaven right there. Mind you, we're living in a piece of heaven. Here, more or less. Okay. So, That brings us to touch, taste, feel what you feel, see what you see, know what you know. I invite you to measure and weigh every single thought that you harbor, every single word that you issue in this earth plane. I invite you to measure and weigh each of them as a hallowed golden footstep on your own path to ascension. This is how we do it, friends. In the geometry of now, you be who you be fully. Step away from the false light. I'll leave it at that. Thank you all. So that ends school. Very happy to have an open conversation or not, as anyone feels in this room. So if there are any questions, let's try not to get embroiled in any politicking. But if there are any questions anyone has of me, and I'm gonna also invite Margot to do a bit of a blessing on this evening and grace us with some of her words. And also, you probably know, most of you, if not all of you, that Ole Damagard is one of the greatest truthers on the planet, a man who stands fully in that alignment that I've been speaking to all evening, and a man who has put his life and his currency on the line in service to others over service to self, which is the greatest currency on earth and beyond. So anyone want to ask a question or take up a talking point? Hands up. Yes, ma'am. Robin's gonna give you a microphone.
Yeah, hi, Sacha. I've been doing a lot of research and I've seen a lot of this over the last couple of years as well too, which is really great. I've also been doing common law and equity and trying to work out how I can move around on this earth without being jabbed, without being PCR tested, and without being quarantined. Now, I see you're doing it, so I'm just wondering, what do I actually need to do to be able to get to that point without being hurt by anybody?
I'm not that stupid, so I'm certainly not going to be saying that live on air. But thank you for the question.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
We'll move slowly on. No problem. Have a chat with me afterwards, by all means. All right. And I love the question, incidentally.
Sacha, what is the number one thing that we can do ourselves to raise human consciousness? Is it, like there's so many things to do right now and things to explore and understand and all that sort of stuff, but what do you say is number one?
Well, for me, the mechanics are what I touched on one of the last slides, which was stop paying coin to Caesar. And this is the one that people have a real hard time over. I'll tell you why. Because in order to stop paying personal income taxes, you are forced into a reckoning of your own conscience. You're forced into a reckoning of how you interface with this false light reality. Because you start to realize that in withdrawing personal income taxes, you are declaring war against the crown or against the state by non-obeisance. And you have to do that to move into sovereignty or into your true consciousness. So there is a point at which you are required to stop paying tithe, coin, to Caesar, to the church, and to the state, because that is abnecation. Don't forget that money, coin, is a totem of your life force, of your time, your motion, your energy. That's all that money is. Except when you bring in the priest bankers, who then casino the Commonwealth and make money for doing nothing other than being a Jesuit or an interventionist. And that describes the status quo, and the technocracy and the bureaucracy and the horror of our civilization is middlemen fleecing the Commonwealth. But that notwithstanding, your question is, what do I do? And what I must do is stop paying tithe to Caesar. And until you've done that, you will always be 1 foot in the kingdom of the devil. And 1 foot in the kingdom of the devil, to use my very harsh, simplistic language, is a metastasizing cell in your body. 1 foot in the kingdom of the devil, willfully placed, once you know the truth of things, is how cells metastasize, is how entropy and death follow. So that's the great reckoning. That's the alchemy of being a true human. You have to, at some point, withdraw the coin. The coin is the totem of fear, time, and money. And I could wax lyrical about how you can fill out certain forms in order to negate other forms, and you can make public notices and certain circulars and step away from the blah, blah, blah. But that's all just simply pedantics and semantics playing out. We don't want to get into that. We want absolute clarity on the matter. It's okay to tell your government to go and fuck itself. In fact, it's not just okay, it is a divine covenant that everyone must engage and enact. After what I've shown you this evening, it would be unforgivable for any of you not to know that as a living fact. The living gospel is to step outside of idolatry and have nothing further to do with the dirty, filthy moneylenders. Overturn their tables and withdraw from the temple.
Is there a good process for doing that? Or do you just
Yeah, there is. Turn your tax form upside down and write, go fuck yourself, put it on envelope and send it back. That's the best way of doing it. And do not sign the form. Do not fill out the form. Because filling out the form, they say, oh, if you think you owe us no taxes, then just write, I owe you no taxes, and sign the form. Don't sign the form. The form is the covenant.
I got another answer. May
Mom,
I?
please.
Okay. So you can take your consciousness to a place where this reality, this 3D reality, disappears. Okay? In that place of the 3D reality, you find yourself into a vast, empty space of infinite potential. In this infinite potential, it is possible to create whatever you want. And if we start from a very concrete and practical step, you basically are in a world right now where you're, let's say we're in Indonesia. So you're in a place where you have a government that tells you, okay, to be residing here, you have to fit that story, okay? That's the story of the Indonesian government. So then you're in here, and you look at it, and you feel, okay, but what is my story, okay? What is my sovereign decision about how I want to be and how I want to play my game? Then the next step of your mission would be to say, what is a graceful, harmonious way, for me to maintain my story and my truth within the context of that story, and how can I do that without compromising? And as far as paying coin to Caesar, as he was telling us, yes, it's possible to reverse the whole thing, and I have done so with the help of many friends, and I am now having the government pay me a coin. Okay? So you can change the story, but the one step that is absolutely important is to do away with fear. Okay? Because as long as you're contracted, and as long as you don't understand that on some level, fear is constricted excitement, on an orgasmic level, on a physical level, you want to expand, you want to be ecstatic, you want to be joyful. But the conditioning that we have says, no, this will be dangerous. You can't go there. And then you take back your power and you squeeze it and twist it, and then you've kind of lost it, but not really. So the question for me is, how do we wake up out of this dream? Well,
we wake up by creating our own dream. How do I dream my life? How do I want my life to be? How do I want to live a life where I'm not disturbed by administration? I'm not asked to sign paper. I'm not asked to spend days and hours on my computer to do completely meaningless stuff. How do you handle that? You have to step by step creating your scenario and deciding how you maintain your life force for the very best, which is to be ecstatic and to help others and to initiate others in their own self-existing, everlasting, ecstatic reality. You know, and there is nothing better than that. And if you are in your dharmic way, to create that, if you are in your dharmic alignment, you know, things open up in front of you. It's amazing, the universe gives you everything, but you have to be in the right dharma of your alignment.
So first, stop paying taxes.
I would very much like to answer that question also, if I can do, because I think that is a super good question. And I think what you're saying, you as well, I want to thank our background singer, by the way. He's made this an unbelievable evening, I will never forget him. The key, I believe, is what you're talking about. Whatever force they have or power over us, it's based on fear. That's the only thing they have. If we are not fearful, they have no power whatsoever. So in situations where you are like, oh, what am I gonna do? Ask the question like Sacha did, more or less. What would I do if I did not fear anything? What would I do? I would turn this paper over, say, fuck off, and that would it. But because I'm fearful, I'd say, oh my God, if I say that, then they will, and that could happen, and your mind get going and you trap yourself. So the thing is, ask yourself, in this situation, whatever it is, what would I do if I was totally free? And in this case, fuck off and fuck off again. Not a problem. Just fuck off, stay away, get a life, and leave us alone. So thank you for. But anyway, I would also say I love fear. I hate being afraid, but I love fear. Because the thing with fear is, where is it? We make it so real. Where is it? Is it hiding under there? Is it hiding under there? Is it green? Is it blue? Is it round? Is it flat? I have never seen fear. I haven't been able to go down to the local supermarket and get £5. Where is it? It's only in the mind. And that's where we suddenly can get sort of control over it if we learn to handle this one. And so fear, the beauty of fear is that it's not real. And it's always connected to the future. We're never fearful of, that's called depression if you take the same feeling going backwards. But forward, that's fear, anxiety, that whole thing. So it's not real, it's always connected to the future, to something that has not yet even happened. So it's all speculation. So every time we get fearful, what is it? It's an absolute waste of life. And I'm talking to myself because I can handle death threats. And today I was sitting sweating, making a phone call to the dentist just to make an appointment. What is going on with the mind? You heal one part and then it takes you somewhere else. It gets you somewhere else. It's like, okay, fine. I will make that phone call. I made the phone call. I was so proud of myself afterwards. I got an appointment. It was amazing. It's a joke. It's a joke. So ask yourself, in whatever situation, when you are like, what would I do if I was totally without fear? And then practice fearlessness.
Bravo. Thank you.
Yeah, fear is false expectations appearing real.
Nice.
So I want to talk about the English language is the programming language of the deep sleep, of the dream spell. But then there's green language. And green language is imagine. Imagine equals I am a genie. I am a genie. We have intimacy. Intimacy is into me I see. Then there's cryptocurrency, blockchain. Crypt equals death. O means I owe you. Currency is electricity, it's energy, it's money. Money is mono eye, the third eye. In God we trust is on all the US bills. So everyone believes God is money. And blockchain is to break the chain of debt that is creating this fear that everyone needs to owe in order to live. So how do we use the green language, and have you had any other recommendations about green language to break this spell?
I certainly do, thank you, and I really appreciate that question, Glenn. So, in simple terms, all language is a cry for help. All verbalized expression outside of song, and in some cases, poetry or spoken word when it is prose. Outside of that, when you look at the syntax, don't care what language you're talking about, it's all connected to the trial of separation, a cry in the wilderness, and it's ultimately about, look at me. When we are enlightened to actualized self, we move into the singularity of being, knowing, seeing, touching, feeling, which is here in the psionic center. The so-called gut intelligence is the true intelligence. The one here is very faulty. It can be very fascinating, but it's very faulty. And this one here can also be very faulty. Very wonderful, but also very faulty. Only once we've moved beyond the intellectualism or beyond thought, so to speak, thinking, or feeling from the heart. Once we've moved beyond the psycho-emotional language, we move into the psionic language, that which exists, that which self-reveals, self-fulfills, which is the psionic intelligence, aka telepathy. So once we are communicating like sensible aliens, which is telepathically, there's no deception, there's no fraud. There can't be. Thought is instantaneous transmission of isness, which is what it should be. So really, when we reconvene with our supernature or with our true genius, our true Christed supernature, we don't think in terms of words any longer. So there was a caveat to what I was going to say when I said I invite you to measure and weigh every single word as a feather. I would go beyond that and say try to move beyond thought and word altogether, because it's only in that singularity. And that for sure is much of what Margot's work gears toward, is that state of still point. So actualization is where we move beyond the need to dialogue. Dialogue is already split reality into two. This abominable notion of co-creating. Can I please, with an impassioned plea, ask everyone in this room to never make reference to co-create or co-creation again. What a toxic venal notion. Drummed up hippie bullshit. And it's so easy to fall into that kind of crappy syntax, but honestly, it's nonsense. There is only creation and creativity. Let's create together. Let's not co-create. Because once you've co-created, you split creation into two. You're doing the opposite of what you think you're doing. You're participating in Babylonian Dream Spell 2.0, and you probably live in Ubud. I've said my piece. Sorry, I had to have that little rant there, but I hope that answers the question more or less. Then. Telepathy, psionic intelligence, cannot lie, beyond words. Any other talking points? Any questions or talking points?
Hi. Could you tell me more about what you know about the satellites 5G that are orbiting the Earth?
Yes.
How many are up there? Whether measuring the radiation of the Earth, and are they being directed? I mean, they are, because I can feel it sometimes.
Yes.
Slightly electrosensitive. What do you know? What do you know?
I know a great deal about the subject. I made a film in 2017 into 2018. 2018, we released the film called 5G Apocalypse, The Extinction Event, which I'm fairly reliably informed is more or less the #1 film still, go-to film available. It's been taken down 1,000 times. It's been seen hundreds of millions of times. So I know that that film really touched a raw nerve. And certainly it got me into a whole lot of trouble, and which I greatly welcome. But that film does the telling. So 5G Apocalypse, the extinction event, check it out. There's so many hacked and pirated copies out there. You'll be able to get it on the web. It's in most languages now as well. But that spoke early on to what was going to happen. That was in 2018. And the only reason I made that film was because I had to understand why I was poisoned in 2016. And 3 days after the former defense minister of Lithuania warned me, after I'd addressed the parliament in Lithuania, told me I was in deep trouble and needed to disappear for 6 months, and was put into a safe house and all of that. Now that was a kind thing which I should have paid attention to in 2016. I didn't take his advice. I went on a speaking tour in Scandinavia and got zapped 3 days later in a hotel in Oslo, early hours of the morning. And that almost took me down. 3.5 months later, I got over it. But it was nuclear poisoning, it was radiation, it was really dangerous shit that happened. And I subsequently learned what had happened to me by studying and meeting with molecular biologists, weapons experts, and we'd also been tipped off when I was lying blue and yellow like a frog for those months. We did get tipped off by a journalist that I was being targeted, and that my name was on a list of weaponry signature, DNA signature targeting. So we mapped things together. So when I got better, end of 2016 into 2017, I was really studying what the fuck happened to me. And I started to realize that if I was then targeted remotely through a satellite or through an early testbed 5G antenna in Oslo, NATO, all right, 3 days after the defense minister warned me, surely that can happen to anyone on Earth. That was what I then realized, that the horror of what was coming with 5G and this quadrillion, or this multi-trillion-dollar rollout, which made no sense at all. And that, and the IoT, the Internet of Things, that's what led me to make the film. And then once I made the film, I really realized how serious it was, and because it opened up a lot of dialogue and conversations with very powerful people as well. I was visited by some of Trump's circle. I was visited by very powerful people in Europe. I'll just say military/intelligence. In fact, I was visited by, I wish I could tell you who. I can't, sorry, this is streaming. I was visited by one of the most powerful individuals on earth to thank me for what I'd done. And all I can say is that led to what we did here in 2019. The Judicial Commission of Inquiry into the weaponization of the biosphere. Anyone here attended? Oh, my darling. Is that Carolyn? Yeah. Oh, sweet, you're so beautiful. Yeah, okay. Carolyn, well, you gave testimony at the Judicial Inquiry. But that we did as a gift in 2019, and we did a 3-day World Health Sovereignty Summit. 2019, friends, in June, 6 months before you know what broke out. We were warning the world. The reason I did the World Health Sovereignty Summit, followed by the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into COVID with Del Bigtree and G. Edward Griffin and Jim Humble and Dr. Robert Young and Dane, what's his name? All the top guys, and geoengineering, you name it. They participated. We did that as a gift to the world to warn about what was coming. We didn't know it was going to come with this, but we knew something was coming. Weaponization of the biosphere. That happened. It kicked in. So yes, I'm somewhat schooled, somewhat learned in the subject of what you would loosely coin 5G. Now, fast forward to last week, when I had a conversation with the man who represents the money that owns Starlink and owns Elon Musk, was behind all of his witchery. That individual informed me, and I have a close relationship with that individual, trusting relationship, informed me that the weaponized frequency sets were being disarmed. That they would not go, that Skynet would not go live with the weaponized frequencies. That's a white hat, black hat war in the basement that's taking place. Okay? And that the reason I use the term the kingdom of the devil is because this Illuminati individual, good Illuminati, white hat, has informed me for the last 4.5 years, step by step, what's about to happen, and has informed me with such incredible alacrity, accuracy. It has really served millions and millions of others through me. So I am fairly satisfied in my mind that the weaponized frequency set will be overruled ultimately once Skynet goes live, and the Internet of Things will be operating through a different broadcast medium. That's my understanding. By the grace of God, I hope I am right in that conjecture by what I've been informed. But it is dangerous stuff, to be sure. It is very, very dangerous stuff, to be sure. This room is protected. We've got this. So that device with that blue light, that device is sending out a plasma bubble around this entire room and measurably protecting human blood from being adversely affected or impacted by mutant electromagnetic frequencies or isotope frequencies. But it's all about frequencies. I mean, the whole narrative tonight was all about frequency wars. Whether you're talking about the genesis of the Vatican and the Catholic Church and all of that, all the way through the circumcisions of little girls and boys in North Africa, all the way through to the dragnet of covidiocy. It's all connected to frequency wars. And frequencies are ultimately the stealth intervention medium that demons use, angelics use. So that's why plasma protection now becomes such a seminal thing. We have to, each of us, do that. Now, when you've got graphene oxide being pumped into you, courtesy of Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Sinovac, and these other motherfuckers, well, you're in deep trouble because you weaponized the entire biome. Your entire system is now an antenna. You're a trillion micro antennas inside the body. That's what the graphene oxide bit is all about. And that's not to say they didn't spend the last 75 years anyway saturating our earthly biome, air, soil, water, and humanity with trillions to the power of trillions of mutant nanoparticulates. Whether you're talking glyphosates or fluoride or phosphates or barium or strontium, it doesn't matter. They are everywhere. The woman there in front of me, Carolyn, gave testimony on how her family were wiped out and her life has been hijacked by rocket testing that happened, 50 years ago, 40 years ago. So, depleted uranium from all of the Pacific Atoll tests that took place 75, 80 years ago. That in itself was sufficient to completely weaponize the entire Earth's biosphere. And that's before we even go back to the War of Atlantis and all of that. So biosphere is death and entropy in the souls. Disease and death is as a direct result of mutant isotope frequencies which have intervened into cellular systems. So how, and this is me ending the rant here, how do we Alpha Omega protect ourselves from that kingdom of the devil? Again, technology and consciousness together at this time. We will soon be at a point, and I can almost name the day because I've done the math, we will be at an event horizon soon within our, someone burping. That was so cute. That's so cute. I just thought a frog had kind of jumped in. We're almost at that point where our psionic flaming of the collective human gestalt, the real gestalt, the one here in the gut, that will phase conjugate out of the entire field. All of those mutancies. We are at that point. I know technologies right now that have got a 100-kilometer radius. In fact, I'm dealing with those scientists directly. They approached me to get this technology to the right places in this year, next year, and the year after, before the Skynet goes fully active. But we can phase conjugate out of the field all of this negativity. But consciousness and activation of our own psionic plasma is definitely the integral piece. It's the integral piece. Can a single human being walk through the valley of death or enter the lion's den untouched? And that's what we're talking about. The answer, of course, is yes, absolutely. There's nothing to fear, provided you know it. and provided you own it and step into that being and remain in that being. Yeah. Long answer. Ah.
So just as an adjunct to that question, the LIDAR technology, the LIDAR technology that they're using through the smartphone, I have a sense that talking about the frequency war of COVID, that there is a transmission of frequency that actually causes people to get sick, which has nothing to do with a virus which is transmissible.
Yeah.
And I believe that based on what you've just said about smartphones, we can probably, or 5G, that we can probably still continue to use smartphones, or do you think it's a question of step away from the phone?
I think it would be very sensible to step away from the phone, but not so much for the biological impact, because again, one knows that activated consciousness can negate those frequency sets. That is what the Christ of light is all about. That's what vibral light is all about. It phase conjugates out of the field the kingdom of the devil. So we don't even need to think it. We just need to be it. Like I said, embodiment, enactment, and manifestation. Those are the three things we need to be entrained upon now. Okay, because we can be it. But I would say it's a sensible thing to step away from that aspect of the technology simply because it is still creating another perpetuation cycle. And that's where the AI transhumanist fantasy comes in. And that is a Borg-like, what's that Nazi twat in Davos, his name? Schwab, the anal Schwab, right? That creature's fantasy, okay, is to manifest this ultimate acquiescent, subservient society within the globalist New World Order, where it's not even a question of we agree to it. We have no choice. There is no conversation. There's no dialogue. Okay, it's absolutism. The central banks around the world, just so you know, guys, are about to release the central banking crypto option. That's coming later this year into next year. Your friendly central bank will be releasing their own form of crypto, as though they have learned from the consensus of people through Bitcoin, kingdom of the devil, and all of that. No, that's a dragnet, a very clever dialectic, Hegelian dialectic, a dragnet that is being set up to bring us all into that. They intend to roll out the Chinese communist kind of credit system through the programmable central banking crypto mechanism. So watch out for that. That's coming. I've gone completely off track and I apologize.
It's a circle.
Thanks so much for keeping the flame alive. My name is Iron, like a lion in Zion. And I was talking to Ole before your presentation about the importance of you said don't use the word co-create, but about creating as Buckminster Fuller says, a new and better way, a new earth haven, new earth that renders the old model obsolete. So I'm talking to you now from the fifth dimension, 5D instead of 5G, and want to ask you or anyone, do you know the lunar calendar significance of today's date that you've chosen for this?
I have no idea of the lunacy connected to that dateline, but by all means, tell us.
80.
Today is the 536th anniversary of the inauguration of the Golden Age. The father of the civil disobedience movement, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, appeared under the full moon, under a neem tree, Ida tree, in West Bengal, India. And somehow I was fortunate to be on the 500th anniversary, that is now 36 years ago, on this day today. And somehow you have been blessed to call us all for this divine gathering on this special day, which is 5 + 3 + 6. I just kind of realized it is ending with 5. You have 3, 6, maybe 9. 3, 6, and 9 is all 0, infinite potential, as we said. And so you were left with the number 5. And there is a mantra which is called Panchatattva Mahamantra. Not just a mantra, not just the Mahamantra that was introduced when the CIA infiltrated the Hare Krishna movement in in the late 60s in America. Not just that Mahamantra, but a mantra more powerful. And if you will permit me, I would like to share it with you. Either in song, I brought my guitar in case we have to, in case we have a moment, but the mantra is, if I may, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. The last word is the most significant because it is what is called Achincha Bheda Bheda Tattva. We are that. Tattvamasi. You are that, Soham, so am I. And we are all in the fifth dimension. We just have to, as you said, see what we're seeing, feel what we're feeling, be in the now. And how do you spell now? The geometry of now, if you will allow me to break that down. No W. N-O, no W. There is only one of you, not the past you and the future you, just the now. No other way.
Thank you. We're coming to that stage of the evening. What's the time, Robin?
9:25.
Okay, couple more. We're good. Carolyn. You'll need to speak boldly into that microphone.
I just wanted to ask, and maybe you've already covered this, but I've been experiencing some very odd symptoms in the last couple of months. I called you the other night and told you what was going on. And as near as I can figure, it's probably coming from cell towers, because, well, I'll tell you what the symptoms are, and if any of you have had these symptoms lately, would you just show me your hands, because I find that very strange. The main one is feeling like I'm on a planet that has 10 times the gravity of this one. Everything's heavy, it's hard. I'm not having it right now, but to pick up my foot and move it, it feels like a Herculean effort. The other thing, very strong, is lack of balance. I had to walk with a cane for a while. It was really strange. Anybody else? Lack of balance and feeling of heaviness? Okay. So it went away when I went on a boat, and the boat had we were in the middle of Raja Ampat with no cellular anything, no phone, and when I came back, it started again. I came back to Ubud, and it was worse, and I went to the hospital 3 times in 12 days because I was scared. I just thought I had a brain tumor or something. So I got a grounding plate made of copper. I stuck it in the earth, and that's what I rest my feet on during the day when I'm not walking around in the bare earth. But I just wanted to mention the importance of digging your feet into the ground. Did you go over this already?
Not the bit about biological earthing, but I mean, carry on.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that and see how many. It doesn't look like that many people have been having symptoms.
Well, hands up all people who know that they are suffering adverse symptoms to what you might regard as 5G, others might regard as ascension syndrome.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that's a lot more. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there and share it, and what was helping me a bit. Plus, I've got the heavy metal thing going on again, so.
I mean, you're a rare bird because of your backstory and the fact that your body is already, as a micro antenna, has been so weaponized, with those particularly toxic nuclear metals. So you are a very extravagant case, of somebody who is subject to all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff, possibly not so wonderful. But the fact is, you're also an incredible exemplar of transmutation and transcendence. You should have been dead a long time ago. Anyone who knows your story knows that. So I would say that what you just said about the feet in the soil, the grounding, actually does perfectly epitomize what I've been talking about all evening, which is, and maybe that's just the takeaway. The takeaway is that be who you be. Feel what you feel, see what you see, know what you know, touch what you touch, and own that quanta, own that space, and step fully into that being here now. And we are creatures of the soil, and we must reconvene a conscious relationship with the telluric forces of the earth and the dielectric forces of the universe, and recognize that we are the capacitors, the divine capacitors of that marriage. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thanks. And I would like to also encourage anybody who isn't sure or suspect they're full of heavy metals to go get tested where they can and then get them out. Chelation and infrared sauna.
Thank you.
I just want to comment also, as far as I know, these different things that I've looked into 5G, it seems like the symptoms, all of the symptoms you're talking about are on that list, but mostly it's women that are feeling it. You are feeling it a lot more than we are. For some, I don't know why, but I also noticed that most of the people here that put up a hand were women. So yeah. So don't tell your wife, don't tell your husband and say, I'm feeling weird, and he's saying, well, I don't feel anything. He might not feel anything, so don't get discouraged.
Okay, thank you. Friends, I'm going to wrap it up now, if that's okay. Are we 10 o'clock? Robin? Are we 10? Are we all good?
9:30.
All right. Friends, thank you very much for joining us. Happy to have you here. Thank you. Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Aria. And he's finished the concerts.
You turn off the stream when you answer that first question.
Yeah, babes, thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. I think you can cut the lines. Unless you want to do a walk around. Do a
I
walk
will,
around before
yes,
you cut
yes.
it. Where is it on here?
With my forearms.
Is this streaming?
Yeah.
Is that streaming?
Yes.
Oh, then hand that to me. Can I pull this out?
Yes.
Oh, delightful. Okay. Friends, just wave goodbye to your audience, please. You've had a pretty big international audience. Thank you. Margot, say goodnight to your audience.
Hello, good night.
Ole Damagard. Thank you, Robin. Thanks, friends. Carolyn Tyler, say goodnight to your audience there.
Good night.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih. And that's Donna. Say goodnight to your audience.
Good night.
Okay. Very good. All right, friends. That's me signing off. Thank you for staying the distance. I have no idea how to turn this bloody thing off. I'll probably have to ask Onyx. Give me one moment. I'll get back to her. Onyx. How do you turn this thing off? Darling, I said goodbye to the audience. You can turn it off. Thank you.
Darling, take off the mic because otherwise everybody's gonna hear what you say.
Can you take off
Good idea.
Can you take off the phone from the thing because I can't turn it off?
You cut the broadcast. Cut it. It doesn't look cut to me.
I'm a